Are you an orange juice lover? Well, I used to absolutely love orange juice. In fact, it was a must for me to start every single day with a glass of orange juice. And I wasn't a big breakfast eater. I was one of these types who would grab a muffin, a granola bar, a cup of coffee, but I would always make sure to have my orange juice with my cup of coffee. Well, at the time, I thought I was doing something healthy. It was kind of like giving your kids apple juice. And yes, I did indeed do that because I did not know any better. But now I do. And when you know better, you do better. Today's episode is going to focus on hidden sugars. And that may seem like a funny topic. Here we are in the middle of the holiday season, and really nobody wants to hear about hidden sugars. But I think this is important to have this information going into the new year, going into 2023, to know what to look for, how labels can be very deceiving. In fact, I've been shocked by what I've learned about reading labels, and use this information to have a healthier, happier 2023. Hi, my name is Carol Covino, and I'm your host for the Forever Fit with Carol Covino podcast. I'm a health coach for women over the age of 40 who are experiencing perimenopausal and menopausal hormonal symptoms. I help these ladies to lose the body fat for good and to tone and strengthen their bodies. And speaking of toning and strengthening your body, my Fit and Fierce 12-week program for women over the age of 40 is open for applications beginning December 1st. The program will begin January 2023, but I am already doing a pre-application process. And for those that sign up during this pre-application process, there will be some special bonuses for you that will be exclusive. As I said, Fit and Fierce is 12 weeks. It's for women over 40 who are struggling with either perimenopausal hormonal symptoms or they're transitioning into menopause. Perhaps they've already gone through menopause. So, women 40, 50, 60, and beyond. I am 61, so I'm very familiar with all of those transitions from perimenopause into menopause and post. And I'm well equipped to help women make this transformation or transition, I should say. I think of it as a transformation because going into menopause can be a beautiful period of your life. It's natural, it's normal. What isn't natural and normal is having your health fail, put on 20 pounds, becoming insulin resistant. We don't want those types of things. So in Fit and Fierce, we focus on becoming fit, but more importantly, healthy. The program includes nutrition, custom nutrition, a custom training exercise plan, and it is the best of both worlds because it is a group but an individual program. You get plenty of individual time in this program, and then the benefits of the support of a group. So all you have to do is go to my website, carolcovino.com, go over to the Fit and Fierce tab, and then you should see a section where you can apply. Do not let the application process deter you. I know how that is. I've had to do these things as well when I hire a coach. But what it does is it gives you a clear idea of your goals, and then also you'll be able to discern whether or not this program is right for you. If it's right for you, we hop on a 15-minute call, very brief call, where I simply explain the program and see if it's something that's going to help you with your goals and if we are a good fit for one another. Absolutely no pressure, no obligation whatsoever. So go on over to carolcovino.com. The link is in the show notes. So getting back to orange juice, and I'm going somewhere with my orange juice story. Yes, we're talking about hidden sugars. And orange juice is one of those culprits that it's like apple juice. It seems healthy, but when you're removing fiber and you're simply drinking the juice, and a lot of times there's added sugar in these juices as well, and added preservatives and it's very refined. When you're drinking it, there's really nothing to slow down that sugar glucose spike. So when you take the fiber away from fruit, that is what keeps your body from having this huge sugar spike. So fiber slows that down. That's why it's important to have enough fiber in your diet and with your meals. So we're going to talk about why sugar is quote unquote bad. But I first want to share with you a study, and it'll bring the orange juice to light. So there was a study done with three different groups. I got this information from Dr. Gundry. He has a podcast, and I thought this was a great study to share with you. That's why I'm sharing it here. So there were three groups. One group of individuals was getting just straight on table sugar. Another group was getting highly refined flour products, so carbohydrates that are highly processed and refined. And the third group was getting good old fashioned orange juice, my fave back in the day. They drew blood from these individuals every hour for 6 hours, and they found that the white blood cells' ability to protect us from bacteria and viruses was impaired, diminished by 70%, even up to 6 hours after a glass of the orange juice. So once again, these individuals drink a glass of orange juice. It impairs their immunity by 70%. It lowers their immunity by 70%. And not just right away when you get the glucose spike, but it continues on for several hours afterward. So the number one reason that we should be concerned with sugar is that it is bad for our immune system. Secondly, when you think about the gut microbiome, the balance is very important. And there's good bacteria, bad bacteria. There's all these critters in our gut. It's kind of creepy to think about, but there is. And we want the right balance and we want enough of the good bacteria and we want to minimize the bad little bugs and things that are within our system. So bad bacteria, bad bugs, bad critters thrive on simple sugar. Good bacteria cannot use simple sugar to grow. So the good guys cannot use simple sugar, the bad guys can. Bad bacteria increases when we eat sugar. And then in turn, this bacteria sends a message to our brain, literally rewarding us, like, good job for eating that candy bar or whatever it was, and makes us want to go back and do it again. So the bad bacteria is literally bossing us around, getting us to eat more of the sugar because that's how they flourish and that's how they grow. This is the addictive nature of sugar. So they've done studies on rats and mice with different sorts of substances considered to be addictive, such as cocaine, heroin, and then they have sugar in this mix as well. And they found that the rats and mice are far more likely to press a lever to get the sugar rather than the cocaine or the heroin. So they will go after the sugar before these other substances that we consider so addictive, and they are bad and they are bad for us. But these mice, these rats, will go for the sugar before they'll go for these hard substances. Now, of course, those hard substances do more harm quicker to our body and more long-term damage. But you get the picture that sugar is just as addictive as these other substances. Number three reason why we need to rethink how much sugar we consume is that it's linked to anxiety and depression. So try giving up the plain sugar. So when I say plain sugar, what I mean is the obvious sugar. So obviously a cupcake, a cake, a bowl of ice cream, all of these sweets, table sugar in your coffee, those are obvious things that you give up. So try giving it up for, I would prefer you to do it for 30 days, but 21 days will suffice. And I want you to keep a journal. And I want you to journal how you're feeling physically. Do you feel better? Is your digestion better? Do you have more energy? But also mentally, are you less anxious? Are you less prone to being blue or depressed? Is your attitude, your day to day enthusiasm and attitude and energy better after the 30-day period of not consuming the sugars. And the reason that we want to take a look at this is because it is linked to anxiety, and there have been studies done that show that our mood is influenced by what we eat. And sugar is a big culprit for escalating these things. If you think about our kids, I really wish I could go back and be more careful, more cautious, more cognizant of this with my kids, but I simply did not know what I know now. And then there's this little bit of pressure. I don't know if you've ever felt this as a parent or with your grandkids, where you feel like it's kind of mean to not let them have the treats that the other kids have. Now, I'm not talking about day to day. I think a lot of parents will limit the day to day sugar as best that they can and the sodas and all of that, or get rid of them entirely. I know I did. My kids did not drink soda. They did not eat excessive desserts. But here would come Christmas, here would come Halloween, here would come Easter, all of the things, the birthdays, and they would have a lot of sugar during these occasions, and it is so addictive. So then what happens is they get away from you and they're consuming it at their friend's house, or they get a little money and there's a vending machine at school if they're in high school, or I don't know if they finally took the vending machines out, but they were in when my kids were in high school and middle school, and they could go over and get a soda. And I didn't know about it. They didn't tell me, and they had maybe money for lunch or for whatever they needed during the day. So they get their hands on it. So you do have to be realistic that they're going to get their hands on it. But I know I felt this little bit of pressure that it was kind of mean to not let them have all the Halloween candy or all of the Easter egg candy that you put in the little Easter eggs, instead of being a little bit more cognizant. And then I did do things like the apple juice and the orange juice. Number four reason for avoiding sugar is its effects on the skin. It is bad for our skin. The gut and the skin, and this is again research that is emerging. The research shows that the gut and the skin are connected. So there is a connection between these two. A healthy gut equals healthy skin. And I remember for the longest time, they'd say, well, don't eat that greasy food. It breaks you out in pimples. My mom would say it to me. We said it to my son because he had a little bit of problem with it, with the acne. And there was truth in it. You are what you eat. There is truth in that. And you are what you consume and take into your body. And your skin is a good example of that. The health of the gut is directly related to our skin, the health of the microbiome. The gut lining is actually like our skin turned inside out. Now, I know that is the most gross analogy. And when I heard it, I was kind of grossed out, but it's true. And it's a large surface. So it's a very large surface that we never, ever see. So you've got your gut lining, and it's not something that is visible to us. So our microbiome, we're not aware of it. We're going about our day, but it is affecting our skin. Sugar produces something called advanced glycation end products. That's a mouthful. I'm not going to define it. Basically, it's called ages, and they cause, it's funny that it's called ages because it's exactly what it does to your skin. It causes your skin to be thick and discolored. It causes dark spots, age spots, liver spots, and acne. So sugar, I mean, we talked about the grease for the longest time, making skin greasy, but I'm going to say the sugar is the true culprit here. Ages are harmful compounds. They are comprised of protein or fat that combines with sugar in the bloodstream. So protein or fat combines with sugar that you take in, produces these advanced glycation end products. I had to look at my notes because it's such a mouthful. These ages, and they do affect our skin negatively. So sugar is everywhere, and it's not always reflected on the labels. Now, you've probably heard by now, because this is out in the health community quite a bit, that there are, I don't know, close to 100 names for sugar, I think, that are hidden. And so I always tell my students, my clients, Just be sure that you're reading the labels. And if you see things you can't pronounce, probably not a good idea, to avoid it because it probably is a hidden sugar or an additive. The list is long, but sugar is hidden in a more devious way than that. I'm going to explain that. Sugar is considered the leading cause of obesity in the United States. And before we hop into how it's hidden, I'm going to give you a few more shocking facts. And this was shocking to me. This was another thing that I learned through Dr. Gundry. At one time, nutritionists at multiple medical schools in the United States, in particular Harvard Medical School, were paid to say that sugar had nothing to do with heart disease and nothing to do with obesity, and that fat, dietary fat, was the culprit. So you look back to, I believe it was the 90s when the whole fat-free thing came about, and there were fat-free cookies and fat-free chips. And the thing is, when you take out fat, something else takes its place, and generally it is a refined carbohydrate, starch, or sugar that takes the place of that fat. This whole fat-free movement did not work very well for us. Obviously, obesity has exploded. Being metabolically inflexible is at, I believe the last stat I heard was 95% of Americans are metabolically inflexible, meaning they have some kind of problem with metabolism, generally stemming from glucose, blood sugar regulation, and insulin. We want to remain insulin sensitive all through our years. It's highly important for overall health and our chances of avoiding disease. There's no guarantees, but this gives you an edge. Chronic disease is the leading killer, not just in this country, but globally. The World Health Organization recently gave out that information that that is what is killing people, not accidents. It is these diseases, these chronic diseases that are linked to our lifestyle and diet. So there was this misinformation out there in the medical community with medical students. Basically, the nutritionists were paid to say that sugar did not cause heart disease, did not cause obesity, and fat was the culprit. And in fact, I heard a woman speak on a podcast not too long ago. I can't recall her name. Her story was very interesting. She was a nutritionist, and this has been several years ago. And she was a registered dietitian, and she challenged the book knowledge she had obtained about dietary fat and carbohydrates. And when she created her programs, she went against the grain by saying, yes, we do need dietary fats, healthy fats, the right kind of fats, not the wrong kind. And sugar is an issue. It does cause obesity. It does cause disease, in particular heart disease and diabetes, type 2 diabetes. And they actually came after her, wanting her to take her statement back. And when I say they, it was the registering body. I forget what it is. However, she is registered with as being a legitimate dietitian that can practice, that can prescribe meal plans and work with patients or clients. She, of course, there is a body that she's certified through. It's the same personal training. You should be certified through a certain foundation that stands behind your license or your certification. And they wanted her to take that back. Somehow they got knowledge of this. So the story, I'll have to look it up and find the podcast for you in the future so that you can check it out for yourself. But I thought it was very interesting. Now, good news is they did not shut down her business and she is still speaking the truth. But when it was new, when she was challenging the dogma, she got a lot of pushback. Americans on the average consume 150 pounds of sugar per year, about a half pound per day. And you might be saying, Carol, there's no way I'm doing a half pound of sugar a day. I don't even eat candy, cakes. I hear clients say this. I don't really like sweets. I don't eat cookies, candies, cakes. But there are hidden sugars, and we're going to talk about how they're hidden within the refined carbs, how you can discover what your carbohydrates actually have in grams of sugar and in teaspoons of sugar. We're going to talk about that. And I'm going to back up just one moment because I did forget to mention, as far as the nutritionists that were being paid to give this information, this continued on until the Freedom of Information Act was passed, and then this is no longer occurring. So I needed to just put that in there. So let's talk labels. Most people look at the labels, and I've done this too, very common, and your eyes just scroll down to sugar and added sugar, and you'll look and go, oh, 1 gram, I'm good, or 0, I'm good. We're all good here. There's no sugar in this product. But think again, there's a better way of looking at your labels. The labeling laws actually came through the FDA and are backed up by the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Now, it is the Department of Agriculture's job to sell products. That is their job. And the main products, the biggest products that they sell are grains. That's the number one thing. And in particular, corn and wheat. So whole wheat or grain of any kind, or corn, which is a grain, has a low glycemic index in and of itself, just by itself, not processed, has a low glycemic index. So glycemic index is talking about the effect that a food has on your blood sugar. If it spikes it rapidly and high, it is a high glycemic food. If it is less likely to spike it and it's lower, that the rise in blood sugar is low and slower, that is a low glycemic food. But when they process the grain to make it into all of the things, the bread, the bagels, uh, chips is one that I see very frequently, crackers, they have to pulverize it into tiny starch molecules that are turned into sugar in your body faster than you can digest table sugar. So in other words, when you eat one of these grain products, it's been pulverized into tiny starch molecules. Those tiny molecules are turned into sugar far faster than you can even digest your table sugar. So your table sugar has a slower impact than these grains. Table sugar is basically two molecules, glucose plus fructose equals sucrose, and fructose is the sugar found in fruit. You have to break down both of those molecules before the sugar can actually enter your bloodstream. So that's what slows it down, is it's got to break down those two molecules. On the other hand, starch is just pure glucose, pure sugar. A bagel or a slice of whole wheat bread has a higher glycemic index than eating table sugar. Shocking. So all sugar is not created equal. Yes, all sugar can cause problems, but not all sugar is created equal. So we have to have a new way of reading the label. So first of all, you need to look at total grams of carbs in a serving. Now that's very important in a serving. Now, what's happened with labels for a lot of different foods is the serving sizes have gotten smaller. You see this with chips. I know I picked up a package my husband had, and the serving was like 7 chips. And to myself, I'm thinking, 7? Who's going to stop at 7? I can't stop at 7. I cannot. We keep going. But they don't want us to know the true amount of carbs that we're taking in. So they make the serving size small on the package, making it look like, well, no big deal. That's not a lot of carbs. So this is what manufacturers do to hide the amount of sugar. One of the things they do. So once you have determined the grams of carbs within a serving of your cereal, your oats, your bagel, your bread, whatever that is, I want you to find the fiber. How much fiber is in that serving? You are going to subtract the fiber from the carbs. So you take the grams of carbs, you subtract out the fiber. From there, that will give you your grams of sugar. So now you know your grams of sugar, just simple math, carbs minus fiber. That's it. But to take it a step further, 4 grams of carbohydrates equals 1 teaspoon of sugar. So you from there, you can figure out how many teaspoons of sugar are actually in your foods. And you may be surprised to find out that it equals a soda or two sodas. So I looked at my oatmeal earlier today and a half cup of dried oatmeal. And now that serving's about right. That's not really small. That's about a serving that I would have. Has 31 grams of carbohydrates, or excuse me, 31 grams of sugar in a serving. 31 grams of sugar. So if you divide that by the 4 grams, and I'm just going to make sure I have my numbers right on that oatmeal. You come up with about 8 teaspoons of sugar. It's not the worst of the foods, but it's not the best of the foods. When you think about it, if you have a goal of not going over 30 to 50 grams, I actually don't like going over 30 grams of sugar. 50 is a max, then that is already taking you past your limit. So if you're having 31 grams of sugar in one serving of oatmeal, and that's your breakfast, you haven't even started your day, you're already getting close to that 50 grams. You're already over that 30 grams. So we have to think about some of these so-called health foods a little bit differently. And it's so funny when I post about these things, and I have posted about oatmeal being sprayed with glyphosate, and I posted recently in particular about oat milk, which I wasn't even talking about oatmeal, but oat milk. The oatmeal police come out after me and they say, "Do you mean to tell me that oatmeal is bad? I have to have my oatmeal. I start each day." And if they're really into bodybuilding, they're even worse about that because that's one of the main breakfast that we're told to eat as bodybuilders is whole eggs, egg whites, and your oatmeal. Now, I will say this, if you are going to the gym and you're working out at an intense level, you're lifting heavy, you're doing some cardio, you're very active, you can assimilate that amount of carbohydrates and sugar easier, better than someone who is sedentary. But if somebody eats that big, huge bowl of oatmeal, they put on a bunch of fruit, they put on syrup, they might add brown sugar. So they've added sugar to it. And then they go sit at a desk job all day and they're largely sedentary. This is not going to be the best thing for their glucose levels and insulin levels. Cereal with no added sugar is a big one. You see no added sugar. But when I was looking online at some different cereals and I was doing the math, so I was taking the carbs minus the fiber and then figuring out how many teaspoons from there, I found one that had 11 teaspoons and a half cup of cereal. Now, half cup of cereal isn't very much. Most of us eat more. In the day of my eating cereal, which has been eons ago, I would pour more than one bowl. So you got 11 teaspoons of sugar. That's 11 teaspoons. I hope I didn't say grams. 11 teaspoons of sugar. Then you have, let's say, some skim milk, and you're thinking, wow, this is so healthy. And that serving of skim milk has 4 teaspoons of sugar. So now you're at 15 teaspoons of sugar. And I believe you're at almost the amount of a couple of sodas. So it pays to do just a little bit of math, especially looking at the grains. And we're not talking about food in its natural state. This doesn't apply. We're talking about the processed grains. So I want you to look out for 2 things in the future. Number one, the heart healthy labels. The American Heart Association Heart Healthy label is not earned, it's bought. It's bought and paid for. So basically, it's not done by merit or award as far as being a very healthy, good food. It's just done by whoever can pay for it. Number 2, the no sugar added label means this product has a ton of sugar and doesn't need any more sugar added. So I'll say that again. When it has a no sugar added label, like the cereal I described, it means this product has a ton of sugar and you don't need any more. So none is added. So be wary of those 2 labels. Do your own little bit of math. It's not a lot. You take that carbohydrate count per serving minus that fiber count. That leaves you with your grams and then grams of carbohydrate. And then from there, you can figure out how much sugar you are consuming. So I hope that this was helpful. I encourage you to go to my website, check out the Fit and Fierce program. You can read a better description of it there. And you'll want to get in on these special bonuses through the month of December. And to do so, you apply, you set up a brief phone call, 15 minutes with me, no pressure. I am actually definitely not a high pressure person. That's not in my personality at all. I believe people need to make the decisions that are best for them. And so all I do is provide you with the information that you need. So until next time, wherever you are in the world, I wish you every blessing. Bye bye.